So that's how it is with my family. And a lot of you guys were asking me why June was sitting in the passenger seat of the cab anyway, and I really don't have an answer for that. It's just out of habit, I guess. Because even when we, as a family, used to go on road trips and stuff, she would always sit in the passenger seat. That's her spot, I guess. But yeah, she always sits in the passenger seat, and I think it might be because she's a bit of a control freak. I mean, she literally grabbed the steering wheel of the car because she thought a cab driver wouldn't know the right way to the airport and would drive her right into traffic. She thought she knew better than him, which is what caused the accident, so you can imagine the degree to which she needs to be in control. She even left for the airport almost 5 hours before the flight was supposed to take off. Make of that what you will. Update 1. Hey, so I thought about it for a couple of days and I decided to just let loose and enjoy my trip because it's unlikely that I'll get an opportunity like this for the next couple of years after I start college. I don't need to worry about my parents or back home, they're all adults and they can take care of this themselves. Besides, it's not my fault that they decided to stake a claim to what was not theirs originally and ended up getting hit back by karma in the process. You were right, it was foolish of me to expect them to be grateful for my sacrifice. They would still always hate me, and I don't need to give up on my fun for that. Anyway, I'm currently living it up in Rome and having the time of my life. I spoke to my grandparents this morning as well, and I explained the entire situation to them, which is the first time I have spoken to anybody about what I go through at home. Not even my friends knew about the mistreatment that I used to face my parents and how they were always partial to my sister, and talking about it felt really good. Most of you guys had this advice for me, that I should speak up about this and let somebody know. So I decided to tell my grandparents, and they were both shocked that this was going on for so long and I had never had a word about it. I explained to them I always thought that I kept my mouth shut and kept trying to be a good daughter to my parents. They would eventually be grateful for me and appreciate me, but it was more than clear to me now that this would never happen. They told me that I had done the right thing and said that after I came back from my trip to Rome, I was supposed to go straight to them and nowhere else. They said that they were going to arrange for me to move out of my parents' house and start living with them instead, and when I told them that I would have to move out for college in the fall, they told me that I wouldn't have to worry about it because the college that I had picked was out of state, and they said that they were going to bear all the expenses for that. So I guess just one conversation with my grandparents was all that I needed to absolutely fix my life. Because now, I don't even have to worry about where I'm going to live once I finally get back, since I pissed my parents off real bad, and I think it's unlikely that they will be welcoming me back with open arms. My parents had already made it clear to me in the beginning, when I had started applying to colleges, that they would not be able to pay for my tuition, even though they had done it for June. They actually used that as an excuse, saying that they had already covered the expenses for one daughter to go to college, but I would have to take care of myself on my own. And now, I don't even have to worry about that. So I'm pretty happy with how things have turned out, and within a week, I'll be back home, but now, I will definitely be living a better life as compared to earlier. Update 2. Hi, so my trip came to an end a couple of days ago, and now, I'm living with my grandparents. Just as they had instructed me to, I went over to their place as soon as I had landed here, and I was pretty surprised to see that they already had the guest room set up for me to stay, and all the things from my parents' house had been moved here. Once I came back and they welcomed me warmly, my grandparents told me that after my conversation with them, where I had told them everything, they had gone to confront my parents. They were supposed to meet anyway, because my parents had called them up on the evening that the accident with June had taken place, and they had called them over so they could discuss what to do and how to go ahead, because my parents really did not want to dip into their savings for the money for the settlement. And they definitely did not want this to go to trial, because then, June would be in real trouble because there was dash cam footage to prove that she had caused the accident. And an out-of-court settlement is the only way to go for them, but the cab driver was apparently demanding an incredibly high amount, and they needed my grandparents to help them out here. But when they met, my grandparents brought up the situation with me first and asked my parents if it was true that they had been treating me badly all my life, and had even asked me to give up my trip so June could go, in my place. At first, they apparently tried to skirt around the question by saying that they were here to discuss the situation with June and how to get her out of trouble, and I was in Rome having the time of my life, so it seemed unnecessary to talk about these things. But my grandparents insisted on talking about me because they wanted to get to the bottom of this, and eventually, my parents just snapped and said that it was true, but I had proved that this was exactly the kind of treatment that I deserved by abandoning my family in their time of trouble. Apparently, my parents had said that I had only shown up at the hospital to grab my flight ticket so I would be able to make it in time for my trip, without caring about what June or even what they were going through. They said that I had always been jealous of June because she had been better than me at every single thing and I couldn't stand it, so that was really not their fault. They claimed that they had never treated me unfairly, which was a huge lie. My parents said that I was just being entitled and spoiled, and they were no longer going to entertain it when I came back. That was all that my grandparents needed to hear to make up their minds about cutting off their only son. My grandparents and parents got into an argument over this, and my parents ended up telling them that they were free to leave and said that they didn't need their help anymore, since they were actually supporting my selfish behavior. They also said that they didn't want me back, so if my grandparents wanted to take me with them, they were more than welcome to do that as well. So my grandparents eventually got people to pack all the things in my room and moved my stuff to their house, so I could make myself comfortable. After my grandparents told me about whatever had happened with my parents, I ended up crying because it just hurt. I had always known that my parents couldn't care less about me, but they were all that I had known for the past 18 years and my heart was broken. I literally pray that nobody else has to go through crap like this, but anyway, my grandparents were there for me all along and I'm really very grateful for that. Anyway, now I'm not confused, I'm going to be living with them and this is my home now. I'll definitely be going to college in a couple of months, but until then, my grandparents have promised to be there with me and even when I'm off to college, they have said that I have nothing to worry about since they're going to cover all my expenses. I have had no contact with my parents or June after I came back and I hadn't even checked the last couple of messages that they had sent me because I was trying to make the best of my trip. So I finally checked them today, since I thought I was in a better place mentally and I'm so glad that I did not check these messages earlier because then, I definitely would have had another mental breakdown. June's messages were all along the same lines, I'm selfish and entitled, and I'm spoiled and she's glad that she won't have anything to do with me at this point on earth because I don't deserve her company anyway. I think she got that a little bit twisted, I think she's the one who doesn't deserve my company, but whatever, it doesn't even matter to me. It's really my parents that hurt me more than anything else but at this point, I don't even feel surprised at the things they say to me. My parents sent me a couple of messages saying that what I had done was incredibly heartless and they should have stopped me the second that I showed up at the hospital, but it was their failure that they had not managed to raise me right, and then, I slipped through their hands even at the hospital when I made a run for it so I could go on the trip my family was such a difficult situation. I did not respond to that message, they sent been treated, even though my parents had always done everything in their power to make sure that I had a comfortable life. I guess my parents don't understand that having a comfortable life is very different from having a good childhood. They said that they sent me to school, fed me, clothed me and I had a roof over my head at all times. There was really nothing more that I could have asked for but in spite of all of that, I was still cribbing about how I was treated by my parents. They said that just because I was jealous of June, I couldn't make them out to be the villains because that was simply unfair. And then, they said that they were right about calling me a waste because that's all I really was.